Hello my friend and welcome to my channel. My name is Alexander Richter. I'm a technical director in visual effects, animation and games. And today I would like to answer an age-old question that bothers a lot of you. Why is scripting so abstract? I've been teaching scripting and especially Python for years now. And one of the biggest challenges newcomers to scripting are facing is writing code that not only solves this current problem, but future problem and projects. It's a little bit like this math joke. I understood math until they invited letters to it. And to be honest, it is confusing if you're not familiar with the concept. Recently, I created a video explaining the concept for my Python masterclass, and I would like to share that here for you on YouTube. Here is why abstractions and patterns are important for scripting. Scripting is about finding patterns and writing code that can react to different situations. For example, if you want to rename 10 files, you cannot rely on their actual name, but you need to break them down into their components, find similarities, modify the elements that need change, and put them back together. Which means, to write a successful script, the elements you are processing need a specific rule or pattern they are following, else your script would need to react to each of them individually, which basically is the same as if you would modify them by hand. And if we look here on these 4 examples of completely different file names from different departments, from rigging, lighting, effects, and comp, they look different, they are different, but they follow the same patterns. And if we break down the pattern, you can see down below, it's basically the shot name, underscore, the task, underscore, the version, dot, and extension. And all 4 follow the same rule. So for example, if we would need to replace any element in here, we would need to break it down by splitting the underscore, removing the element that we want to be replaced, and putting in something else. So if you want to replace rigging with something else, we break the underscore here, put on the second position a different department, put them back together, and voila. Usually, when creating a script, we collect a sample that best represents the input that we get. Typical asset or file names, paths, node structures, and so on. This is, for example, what we do in each assignment. All the data that you will work with is just a sample of a bigger picture, but the idea is if your script can flexibly work with the sample, it should be able to handle similar situations and inputs. To achieve that, we must look for patterns like positions in a file name or list and avoid replacing concrete information if not specifically asked for. Depending on your background, this week can be more or less challenging. When we look at the next example, we have to realize that this is in most cases a sample of assets, and we don't just want to solve this sample, but all the other cases that are similar. So our code cannot be too concrete to only solve this problem, but should be flexible enough to solve other problems with similar patterns. So if we look here, we have a list of asset names. This could be characters in our scene. We have 2 with an underscore 001, but the last one, the character announcer, is missing that. So the task is add underscore 001 to the end of the assets list. So in this case, we have this very specific sample, but it doesn't mean that this is the only situation that we need to work with. We have to follow what the task is asking and less what the sample looks like. One of the ways that we could solve it is by taking the last item in the list and then literally manually typing in character underscore announcer underscore 001. This is what we actually would do if we would manually solve that. Would click on the asset, rename it, and voila. But this is not how scripting works. For us, we need to follow more of what the task is saying. And the task is saying add underscore 001 to the end of the asset list, which means if we change the asset list, so it will be character underscore cat, our manual work will not work anymore. We literally would need to change our script so it can also work with this new name. But what we can do in scripting is we can reuse the data and use it in a more pattern and abstract way. So instead of concretely writing that we want to replace the announcer or cat, we just take the last item of the list, put it back in, add _001, and replace it in the list. So no matter what kind of list with what kind of content we get, always take the last item of the list, add _001 to this last item, and put it back in. And it works with any list. The importance is only that the list that we get is a string in this case, and it needs an _001. But from the task that we get, we think that is what is needed. Elon Musk once described the concept of reusability the following. If we only could use a plane once for each flight, it would cost $1 million to fly in one direction and basically no one would fly. Same spiel here. If your script only works for this situation, shot or asset, and you have to update or rewrite it for any shot or asset, no one would script anymore, but do it rather by hand. Another important element of scripting is that after generally solving the task, there is not only one solution that works, but multiple. Some are better and some are worse. If we look at the task ahead, so the task here is we have to remove _test from the name. This means whatever name we get, we have to write a script that will remove _test. How would you solve that one? So in this case, we get Mike _001 test. We can write a script that removes _test. But again, this is just a sample. It could be Sully _001 test. It could be announcer _002 test. So it doesn't really matter what is the rest of the name. We only focus on, okay, there's a _test in the name, and our task is to write a script that whatever the actual name is, we remove this specific part. So here are, for example, 3 possible solutions. The first one follows a little bit what we talked before. The manual one, you basically write down what you want. So in this case, you write down Mike _001. Works perfectly fine. The problem here is, first thing, you did it manually. Second, it only works with this exact name. So if the name will be Sully _001 test, suddenly our manual work wouldn't work. We have to rewrite it as we had in the previous task. Of course, we need to be more abstract. We need to understand the pattern. And the pattern is basically either there is a specific name we want to replace, or it is the last part in our string. And this is also our second solution. We do a split. So we see there's underscores, so we split the name apart into each elements and then put them back together, but remove the last part. In this case, the last part is the test. And of course, we get Mike _001. If we change it to Sully _001, it will still work. Perfect. There's actually even a simpler solution, and the solution is replace. Because we know exactly what we want. So we have _test and we don't want anything instead. So why not replace _test with nothing? And this way, first on, only have one line instead of 2. And also, it's easier to understand because you can literally say replace _test with nothing. It's much more readable and easier to digest. And third one, what if there is no _test in the name? So in this situation, we would split it apart and remove whatever is last. It could be the number or something else. But with replace, if we don't find _test in the name, we don't do anything. Just solving it not always means it's the best code. Sometimes there are easier and even more robust solutions ahead. We get to the best solution by thinking about the easiest way that we can solve the task and then start coding. If we solve the problem, we look at our solution and ask ourselves, does this look like the simplest solution? And if the answer is not yes, we think about other ways to solve it. I hope that this gave you a feeling of why abstractions and patterns are so important for scripting. And don't worry if you don't get it the first try. The most important thing is to practice and to get a feel of how to write code that can solve similar problems. And by the way, I'm currently recording part 2 of season 2 of the 21 Artist Show, so stay tuned for that. See you on the next video. You can find the full masterclass for Python for Maya and Python for Nuke on my website alexanderrichtertd.com. Also there are great coaching opportunities, articles, and my weekly newsletter.